They kept a vigil all day, making a shrine of the Dakota, where John Lennon and his wife Yoko Ono owned 5 apartments. Some mourners brought bouquets. The crowd stood just a few feet from the archway near where Lennon was shot. Witnesses said a gunman followed the Lennons as they got out of a limousine and walked past the Dakota's huge iron gate.
34 past the hour. 41 years ago today, former Beatle John Lennon was shot and killed outside his New York City apartment building. The 40-year-old was entering the Dakota, an apartment building on the Upper West Side of Manhattan where he resided. He was returning home on the night of December 8th, 1980, when Mark David Chapman shot him at close range with a .38 caliber revolver. Lennon was rushed to a nearby hospital in a police car but died en route. He was reported dead on arrival. Chapman was a 25-year-old former security guard from Honolulu who had no prior criminal convictions. Earlier in the day, Chapman had received Lennon's autograph just before he left to attend a recording session with his wife, Yoko Ono.
And then, Luz, it's, you know, I, as a massive Beatles fan my entire life, this day is always a black mark on the calendar. I was thinking about it this morning, though, and thinking it's been 41 years since his death, and yet, in my God, 50 years since the Beatles broke up, and yet this Thanksgiving, everybody was watching 8 hours, documentary of them recording an album and just studying it. It is a phenomenon unlike any in our time. You would think, you know, you thought maybe it would be Sinatra, maybe it would be Elvis that would have this lasting impact. No, it's the Beatles. And 41 years, even after John Lennon's death, they just keep getting bigger.
It's funny, I was on, I used to be based in India for the Financial Times, and I was on Indian TV, and it was a talk show, but with an audience. And each of the panelists was asked who they would come back as if they were reincarnated. And people saying Gandhi or picking various names. And I said John Lennon. And the entire audience burst into like a 30-second applause. It's the only time an audience has ever applauded me. And so I will never forget it. But Lennon, I think stands taller than any other figure of the music world of the 1960s. Just one other quick anecdote. I was 12 when he died, and I was at a very stuffy English boarding school. I'd never heard of John Lennon, and from that moment on, I became well, in my own mind, an expert. I got obsessed with him.
Right.
Okay, nobody's more obsessed than Mike. Ask him anything, he will know the answer.
But you did see, though, in the documentary, you know, there had been this just belief, it had become conventional wisdom, that by Let It Be at the end, Lennon was nasty, he was snarling, and he sort of, they all believed the press clippings afterwards. They were turned into two-dimensional characters. And watching this, he was a beautiful guy. He loved Paul, and there was that one scene where George had left the band, and they asked him on camera, well, what are we going to do if George doesn't come back by Tuesday? He goes, we'll get Eric Clapton. It was mean and cold and cutting. It was on camera. And it was a tough Liverpool guy, right? Unbeknownst to him, they hid a microphone in the flower pot. The next day, he and Paul were talking about George. And there's John going, we've wounded him. And we've been wounding him year after year, and we made that wound worse yesterday, and we didn't do anything to put a bandage on it. We have to help our kid brother. We've got to be better. Really,
he was the soul of the Beatles. I'm a John fan. An unlikely fact dates me. I saw the Beatles' first concert in America.
What?
No,
that's
after they went on the Ed Sullivan Show, they came to Washington, D.C.
You were at that concert?
I was at the concert of Washington, D.C. I'll never forget walking past the Ringo's drum set, and there was a hail of jelly beans. Back then, Beatles fans, Beatlemania was already raging, threw jelly beans, and the Beatles haven't showed up yet, but they just threw them at anybody who was walking by. And it was a small auditorium, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people. And that just indelible image of John, you know, with the microphone, and Paul, sweet Paul Swayze, and Ringo at the. So, you know, I was in there at the start, and there is something about Beatles music that's just different.
Yep.
You know, you listen to it; it doesn't sound like anything else.
Right.
And it endures. It's as much fun to listen to now as it was in 1963.
It does endure.
It is timeless. It is, you know, they actually were kind of a bit before my time. And I grew up, though, being huge fans. My kids grew up being huge fans. But, I mean, it's just, it is enduring.
It's what's amazing is how much you know about them, which we'll stop talking. Don't ask him anything about the Beatles. Several